Hi, Masterminds. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I think the market's almost ready to take that next leg up. And I'm talking about Bitcoin to maybe that $32,000 level. I'm also loving Litecoin. I hope you all got in on that, maybe positioned really well early on. And I did personally. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with my moves because I do take things a little bit slower when I go into positions, and I'm also using a bit of leverage as well. So it's been a really good learning experience for me because I did do this in the previous cycle. But when things actually move as they do, you really have to commit to the decisions that you've made and follow through on the plan. And it's always a really fun learning experience, especially when you're making, a lot of money in the process. So yeah, so far so good with Litecoin. I'm going to dive into the charts though, and just maybe give us all a bit of let's sober up a little bit because I'm seeing a lot of euphoria on my timeline as well now, and I'm going on recency bias, and that might be where it could trip me up or trip my insight around this up a little bit. Is we've been trading and doing a lot with different coins recently, which we've seen those heavy pumps that just go up, but then they come straight back down. And you can see the momentum indicators, just there's no follow through, there's no sustainable momentum. This might be different with Litecoin. And I think it's really important to identify the short-term trade, and you can commit to that. But if you are looking at a longer-term trade here, if you're thinking the halving, this is actually going to decrease the supply. It's being listed on EDX, which is that Citadel-backed exchange. You could be looking at that higher time frame, so the daily and the weekly, and going, all right, so it's just smashed through the 100-week moving average, and it's looking pretty good. Like it's got a lot of movement higher in the midterm versus the short term, where we've seen that pretty aggressive pump from the low 80s up into the was it 110 at the moment. So in my eyes, that's a really nice move, but those kind of moves just don't really continue straight up. There's always going to be consolidation pullback. And this is that almost that bull market style phase where the pullbacks are quite short and you need to look at moving average and volume support and kind of have multiple plan A's, plan B's, and plans. So plan A, plan B, plan C's of where you want to enter. So, you might have all of these lined up, you have the orders in place, but you're very aware that most of them aren't going to get filled. But just in case, you've got them there expecting that higher low bounce and it's moved higher. Let's crack in because I'm going to talk about that on the charts. I'm just going to quickly go over my fast five because I've essentially outlined everything I'm probably going to talk about today anyway, and I'll just go a bit deeper on the charts. So there is a little bit of copium running around, and I'm seeing some rumors floating out that Gary Gensler has resigned. It doesn't surprise me if that would turn out to be true based on the level of political resistance he's facing now. And also you've got the likes of BlackRock and Fidelity just coming in and putting the squeeze on him to get these ETFs approved. So it's a fascinating situation. I don't believe Twitter rumors at all anymore after the Binance stuff. You just have to take it with an absolute grain of salt. But it does ring true to me that it's going to happen eventually. And if it was true, I think we see a pretty aggressive move up in Ethereum and altcoins. So if this does prove to be true, I think you can really position hard and strongly in the altcoins that were listed by the SEC, and also Ethereum itself, because I think that gives it the sort of the green light. Gensler's gone, the big boys are coming in with their ETFs for Bitcoin, but then altcoins should get that relief rally, a bit of a pump. So yes, let's focus on Litecoin just quickly here. So just outlining what I said before, a clear smash through 115 in my view is and you can see on my chart here, this green line, that's 115. I think a smash through there, it's pretty much off the races, and it's just consolidating into this rising wedge, which is a bearish pattern generally. But if it is in a really strong uptrend and you see a rising wedge, you do have to be very careful it's not going to crack up, because Bitcoin is known to do that, especially in bull markets. It can go into a rising wedge, but the spot buying is so strong that it gets to the top of the wedge and shorters come in and then boom, blitz through. You've got all this short squares, just rides higher. So just be careful. And I think we do have to be careful in that regard, with Litecoin having that halving narrative and list on EDX as well. So yeah, just full disclosure, I still have a position in play, 30%. So I've aggressively been taking profits, maybe a bit too much, but I'm still very aware of what has happened recently. We're just coming out of this low, we are still in this low liquidity environment, and I'm just not prepared to just go this time is different, because that's when you can get in a bit of trouble with trading. I think having a plan and sticking to it is really important, but also you can change things a little bit on the fly, which I'm kind of doing at the moment. I've got 30% of my position still in play. I've made made a killing, to be honest. Really happy. It's the best trade of the year, probably of last year as well. But what's really great is still got that 30% in there, and I've taken significant profits out of the market, including my original principal. So this is really just interesting for me to maybe play this situation and I am using a bit of leverage through Pancake Swap. I'm going to port over to Bybit. But for me personally, I'm not rushing into, aping into this level at all. I'm happy to let this 30% ride no matter what. But if it does come back down to these key areas, moving averages and, buy levels, I'm not sure is the thing. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. And these lower levels, I originally thought, okay, crack to 110, we're going to get that pullback to 100, 101, because it's the 100-week moving average, such a core level of resistance that generally when you break up, bust through with a dead straight candle, it comes back down eventually and retests those areas anyway. But it hasn't done that yet. It just continues to ride higher. So that may be too ambitious. And so I've kind of looked at levels, 107.80, 104. So I've layered in levels here that you can just see highlighted there, because that's huge volume support and also moving averages on different time frames going down. So I fully expect maybe 2 or 3 of these not to get hit, but I think the upper ones do get hit, and that allows me to add to my position with taken profits, and I'm kind of just compounding, I guess, my position, which I really want to do. And of course, I've removed my original principal and risk. So this is a really good time to actually be doing this. And it's a really good strategy if you're into that sort of thing with leverage. Even you're doing it with spot as well. I think that's really positive. It's kind of the original Joe Shoe strategy where you're essentially using the move higher to take profits off. You still have maybe half your position in there. You're taking the 50% out. You're waiting for those levels as it retraces down. You're just stacking into them, and then rinse, repeat, keeps going up. But you're constantly removing profits as well. I also have a level that I've plugged in here, 97.50, because in a vicious pullback, if it does come back to 100, I think it probably dips below to really freak out a lot of people and wipe out some stops. So that's the next huge volume level in that area. Yeah, I think that's essentially all that I really need to say on that. I know you guys are probably playing this a bit different as well. You probably just have spot positions, or you are maybe toying with a bit of leverage. I think it's really important when you have conviction on something, and I did, which Litecoin had with the halving, is I really wanted to get as much bang for my buck as possible. And I've been using a small trading position, and I thought, well, look, I'm pretty sure that this is going to happen. So let's try and remove as much risk as possible and go in with a small amount of leverage to give myself a pretty high liquidation range. So I think my liquidation at the moment is 20. So if Leica drops to 20, my position gets liquidated. I am, of course, managing my risk higher, but it's a very low amount of leverage. I've been layering in dollar cost averaging essentially with positions and leverage, lower down to low 80s and high 70s. So over time, right now, this position, I don't really care about, it's 30%. And if it runs to 150, 200 a coin, then I'll probably triple that original amount that I pulled out, which is a perfectly fine place to be, but I'm managing my risk, and I'm really happy about that, because I hate feeling over leveraged and I can't go to sleep and all that. So, and it works the same with spot as well. If you're not managing your risk, you will likely have trouble sleeping. You'll be panicking a little bit, but this does take a lot of that pressure off. So I'm kind of happy about that. And I wanted to share it with you guys because, these things can move really quickly, and sometimes you have to change your play on the fly, and I wanted to share that. Watch the coins are set to be listed. So yes, and I've been saying EDX a little bit here. Bitcoin Cash has been absolutely flying, essentially the same amount as Litecoin, and it's falling under the radar because it's kind of like the poor cousin of Bitcoin, and it's not listed on many big exchanges, so liquidity is lower. But essentially, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and a few others, a lot of the proof of work coins have been listed on this new exchange to rival Coinbase, which is backed by Citadel, so Charles Schwab and all that. It's going to be big. So these coins have been pre-listed on this, and so there's a lot of hype around it, and they're flying. So we do have to watch the coins that get listed on EDX, because you think it has a close tying to what the SEC likely doesn't suspect as securities, where the institutional money likely goes, just to get a diverse portfolio. So keep an eye on that. Yeah, Bitcoin Cash is not on my want or buy list, but it's interesting to see that flying. Dino Coin and also Litecoin. So yeah, keep that in mind. Yeah, Bitcoin for me keeps grinding higher, climbing a wall of worry. It's now above volume key moving average. 32,000 seems like it's soon. I'll show you on the chart why I think that. And this is just a macro concern I just want to put on your radar, guys. The riots in France are a major macro problem. It's slowly destabilizing the EU, not just the riots, but just economic issues from the Russia war, Ukraine, and also debasement, inflation. It's all coming to a bit of a head, and there's all these demographic issues as well with, I guess it can go back to Merkel and even before, when essentially Europe had open borders, and it took in a lot of the refugees from the war-torn regions, Libya, Syria, Iraq and whatnot. And now there's a bit of a demographic issue where, the society is maybe not gelling as well as it could be. And you can look deeper into that, but it's definitely a thing. And you just have to think that this is the start potentially of revolution in France. They're not, they're prone to having little moments where they overthrow their leader. And I think Macron is deeply unpopular. I mean, there's been riots, I think, every single year, every month, going back multiple years. So there's also nationalists gaining a lot of support in mainland Europe. In Germany, the far right party, I can't quite remember their name, BFD, something or other. But Le Pen, she is the nationalist party in France, and she essentially wants to cut immigration totally altogether and deport a lot of these people, and essentially, move back to more conservative governance versus neoliberalism. So that is very interesting, and she's getting a ton of support just from what's happening right at the moment. She almost beat Macron in the last election, so I can't see that turning anytime soon. But this is all fourth turning stuff, where we see Europe, go through this tremendous period of challenge and unease, very similar to the last sort of, when we saw the World War, when we saw the Depression, when we saw that economic turmoil. It leads to conflict, it leads to change. So we just all have to be prepared, and of course it hits markets. If France just has if there's a military coup in France, which the military is sort of signaling there might be if they can't get control of the streets, the police, then I think markets absolutely tank through the floor. So just keep that in mind. Wanted to share that too. Okay, let's pivot on over to the charts real quick. Litecoins on the daily, I mean, just keep showing this strength. 113 going higher. To my eye, though, like I said, guys, it's in that rising wedge, but this just looks strong. So yeah, I don't know if my targets are even going to get hit. 108. I can absolutely see it fall into this region here, this key volume support 107. So I do have that bid there. The RSI starting to roll up, and this is the region where I thought it, because of the RSI, where the divergence was really strong. You saw these peaks just rolling higher, and then you see the RSI just tanking on multiple timeframes. And in recent history, as soon as you see that, you can pretty much go short and make money. But this is just ground high, and as dipped down, it's been heavily bought up in this spot bid. So with Litecoin, I'm looking at this, there's every chance and every reason now to think that 115 isn't safe, and this punches right through. And then we have to look at, I think once 115 goes, then we're looking seriously at 150 is the next pit stop. No, it won't happen right away. Litecoin can run really quick, sure, but there's obviously some technical levels still above it, but this is a very clear breakout of the weekly. The 200-week moving average is there. Oh, excuse me, guys. I've been saying the 100, I was meaning the 200. That's a pretty big miss, because the 200 is a lot. Oh no, there's the 100 above it. So we've actually cracked both. So yeah, incredibly bullish on the weekly. This massive weekly candle smashed through the 200 and the 100. So yeah, 104, that's the level you really want to be watching out for a pullback. 104.30. If it drops lower to the 200, I mean, that's kitchen sink. That's ultimate buy zone. Shush through. But the 100 here snaking down, that's where you want to look at it. But here, I don't know. It's starting to look really, really good. And I guess in the halving runs, they can be very, very violent, and you're just left on the sidelines, just watching it in awe. So you've got 133 as that next sort of volume shelf that we should run into it. And then after that, 163, and then you're really getting into bull market territory, and it doesn't have the gas keep going, but there's not a lot of liquidity above it. So it can really run really, really quickly. And we have to bear in mind too, if Bitcoin starts running to 32 plus, expect this to really have that pulse up, and then maybe we have the pullback that we're waiting for. But just be aware that this is why you kind of want to hedge yourself, have a bid in the market, slowly gather positions over time. Don't expect the perfect entries. That's kind of my view on it, guys. Also, Bitcoin, just quickly looking at this, it is consolidated absolute beauty. We could not lose that $30,000 level, wick down in there, but brought straight back up. It's reclaimed this huge volume support here, 1, 2, 3, just bouncing, dancing on it. Love it. And this just, to me, looks like she's slowly breaking out and wants to go higher. RSI essentially reset in the midline. Stock RSI looks pretty good for a move up to that 32 area. Then we'll probably have to contend with pullbacks to retest these little points on the high there. There was another one I wanted to show you, and that was ARB. I think ARB's looking quite nice. God, there's a lot of squiggles on here, but essentially ARB is shaping up that it's trying to break out as well. So this feels like a really nice spot for the market to be in, and for traders and for investors to really make some money, because all these charts are just primed for breakouts now on a lot of these altcoins. And we don't want to miss these big pumps in case we are moving into a more bullish phase of this market cycle. So you can sort of see this head and shoulders that formed here. And a lot of the altcoins formed them. We were sort of sharing with that RNDR. And also Litecoin head and shoulders actually did break down, but RDNR, yeah, that didn't break down and actually went higher. And you can see here, this is trying not to break down here. It's almost invalidating. It's above the moving averages. I don't mind this at all. If you can get above 160, so these previous wicks here, 160, I think you can add some positions there for confirmation to roll higher, but you might get position entries here. But Arbitrum, I'm incredibly bullish on Arbitrum going forward, and Joe's as well. All right, guys, hope you have enjoyed this episode. As always, I have an absolute blast on my Monday market updates. Lots to get excited about, lots of fun. Please, any questions or insights, comments, feedback, please leave them below and let's chat, let's discuss. Also, start posting your charts, guys. It's a really exciting time. Post your rationale. I want to hear it. Like I've sort of told you today about my rationale behind Litecoin, how I've approached it. Please let me know. Let's talk about it, and maybe we can, help you get to that place you want to be quicker. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a great day, and we'll catch you again for our next few episodes and in the Discord. Bye.